My name is Wen Liu. I'm from Shanghai, China, and I'm a mixed media sculptor. So I'm here at my exhibition at RAiR Museum called Molding Mending. I use a lot of mold making process in my practice to mimic the molding process of animal. So I use very particular material on object to make a mold to capture the negative space and then remove the object and show the shed skin or the mold itself in the space. It's my way to talk about like the absence and loss. My father passed away last year, so finally I decided to make something for him, for us. Luckily, I feel like making some pieces is my outlet for grief. I made one piece called The Furthest Holding in this show. So like a couple years ago when I went back to visit, I made a mold of his hand. So I started to press clay into his palm to create a pine cone out of his palm prints. And another pine cone, I pressed clay into my palm. Pine cone also a seed of a tree, so I created that way to describe our relationship. And I also use herbal medicine in my practice to emphasize that mending process. Silhouette of adults is kind of like a general understanding of a prescription of a medicine. So I make resin to preserve the medicine. At the very beginning, I try to make it look like a stained glass church window. Try to combine this herbal medicine into resin. It's like when you find an ember with insects in it. I've been collecting from estate sales. So the estate sales, like usually it happens when people pass away. And that's my very unique way to catch up Americans' life, because I can go some stranger's house and based on their interior design, furniture choices, book collections, I can read this person I've never met. Sometimes I spend hours in someone's basement, went through their family albums. It's interesting to me because it was valuable and precious to someone. But at that point, at that moment, it's not valuable to anybody. So I'm very interested in that kind of value and the loss and abandonment. When I mix the medicine into clay, it's like a remedy. It disappeared after firing. The clay become like a mold of the medicine. And I try to make it look like a snake scale to emphasize that shed skin also mending process in animal, and also a metaphor for myself.
I'm Nima Nabavi. I'm a self-taught geometric artist. I'm exhibiting right now at the RAiR Museum. I'm doing a show called Visiting, where I encourage people to come in, watch me work on the piece, and I try to create a strong personal connection with people through the piece. What I like about this work is that when people see it, they see the work that's gone into it. This is one of the first times in human history where we don't accept that good work should be just repetitive and tedious and discipline-based. We're in a shortcut phase. Someone might look at this and say, oh, it looks like quantum level molecular structures and real kind of fabric of the universe type stuff. So super micro. And some people will see it as the super macro. Oh, this is what planetary orbits look like. These look like constellations, these look like stars. It seems like these types of geometric shapes and patterns, structures and symmetries exist on a micro level of our universe and on a macro level of our universe, but they're not visible in our scale of the universe. There are times where I'm like, that line was a little bit sloppy, or it had a little wiggle in it, or I didn't hit it just right the way I wanted. And as you're moving through these, in the very beginning when you're laying down lines, you could see the variation between them. You could see the imperfections really quite clearly, but you keep laying down these lines. And I think that one of the things I've noticed is that if the intention to maintain a pattern is there, then over time, all these lines together will show the pattern. That in life, in the sense that we live every day and we have good days and we have bad days. You know, so it's like if I draw a wonky line, that's like having a wonky day. But just knowing that if you maintain the intention that the pattern of my life is to be a kind person, the pattern of my life is to be consistent, to be open-minded. So I'm sticking to the plan. Each day isn't going exactly as I planned, but the plan stays in place. My grandfather was a geometric artist in Iran. He would just show us the work and say that, okay, I made this grid by following this rhythmic pattern. And that I really remembered was that there was a variety of rhythmic patterns from which different types of tessellations would emerge. It was the type of logic that made sense to me. I think that my grandfather's biggest inspiration was Islamic geometry, or what's called Islamic geometry, and my biggest influence was my grandfather. So I think there's a lineage of inspiration there. Why is it when all these things link up and make these little bursts of light, why is it appealing to me? Why is it appealing to a 7-year-old kid that walks in? Why is it appealing to, you know, a cowboy that walks in? Why is it always appealing, regardless of whether you understand the art world or not? So to me, it's not about making art, so to speak. I'm finding things that are intriguing to me and other people.
My name is Jordan Ann Craig. I'm a Northern Cheyenne artist raised in the Bay Area. So right now I am currently studying Cheyenne beadwork exclusively and making the designs based off of different objects like moccasins, baby carriers, anything that I find really interesting aesthetically on the objects themselves. And this idea of abstracting from an original object has been really just transformative for my own practice. So as soon as I started really focusing on these beautiful objects from my own culture, it just opened up so many doors. And I think I'll have endless inspiration and stories to tell within these works. I think when I design these paintings, I'm really trying to honor the original object and make something beautiful out of something that came well before my time. I think why I intend on the work to be very pristine and clean is I want to protect those original objects and kind of even remove the human hand. So that's why I try to keep it almost a little bit digital and a little bit, protecting that original object and just re-envisioning it in a completely different way. So I make these patterns digitally on my computer, and so I'm able to predict my entire painting before I even touch the canvas with paint. Each painting, wherever I begin, is like a puzzle, and so it makes it really fun. The work has to be as precise as possible. I'm a perfectionist, so I want it to be, you know, clean and drip-free for the most part. Black and white piece is my final painting of this series. There's just been these summer lightning storms every night. And the other night we had one that was like, there was no sound and just all these lights going off. And so this painting naturally really felt like that, like almost like a massive argument in the sky. In all of these paintings, I am really examining my relationships with my sisters. The title of the show is Your Favorite Color is Yellow, and it's basically about how when growing up with my younger sister, I forced her to like the color yellow because I was the only one that was allowed to like the color pink. So the dot drawings, I like to refer to them as memory landscapes. I'm not referencing anything directly. I'm actually just thinking about the different land formations. It's like when you drive somewhere really late or really early, you just like are kind of in that zombie mode and you're just taking things in your peripheral, but you're not actually memorizing them. And so these paintings, I am basically roughly sketching out these different plateaus, mountains, hills, just things in your periphery that I'm absorbing but not explicitly referencing. They're just really process-based and relaxing. My mom was adopted in the 1960s from the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. Her biological mother had to give her up, and she grew up in an Irish Catholic family. So she was the youngest, she had all different Native siblings, and so she was very separated from her culture. It was taken away, and luckily she's been able to reconnect with her family and her mother, who still lives on the reservation. This is our way, me and my mom's way and my sister's way, to reconnect to our culture, to learn about our culture, to study it, to research it, to celebrate our backgrounds. This work, it's indigenous, but there's also just so many other things going into it, and so many personal narratives, contemporary narratives, just the different work I've been exposed to throughout my life, and it's very multifaceted.